Man in the Mat, Book 2, Chapter 1, The Change. 1 year later, Jaden has fallen into a deep depression since the death of his boyfriend Matthew. He just loved to eat men out. But as gay, other dudes did not want Jaden, so in order to solve the problem, Jaden decided to get a sex change, and now is a woman named Jenna. She works as an underwear model to pay for her plastic surgery. Jenna had a dream that Matthew was still alive one night. She thought that she was dating Matthew for real and then suddenly ran him to her bosom. I told you, this new problem. Matthew for real and suddenly ran him to her bosom again. Jaden, you're a woman now. And like you were hot, but I'm only into dudes. I'm not into that. He said to Jaden as he began crying. I'm so sorry, he said to her. Jenna was heartbroken by this. She'd always wanted Matthew to love her in her new gay-ass body. Chapter 2, The First Day of School. Although Jenna was 16, it was her first day of kindergarten. Jenna started crying because she was so alone. She did not want to go to school today, even though it was her first day. The teacher came up to Jenna and told her that everything was going to be okay. I am your teacher and I will take care of you. I will give you a yanker, she said as she wrapped her cheeks around Jenna. But Jenna did not want a yanker. She wanted to die. Why? Why did this happen to me, she thought. Jenna finally got fed up with the world and decided she must take action. This world is totally messed up. There are no guys for me anymore. I had my fun with Matthew, but now it's over. She needed to love a real man again, so she ran home. She packed her supplies, some food, and went off to Mount Everest to die. To her surprise, while she was falling towards an icy cold water below, a man appeared out of nowhere. He was handsome and he had long blonde hair, which fell against his face. His eyes were green and he wore a tank top and jeans. Baby, are you okay? He asked her as he reached his arms out to save her from falling into the snowbanks at the bottom of the mountain. Oh my fucking god, she said as she slowly drifted into his hands. I almost died. Oh, Matt, I'm reading this. Shut up, I'm trying to read my audiobook. I'm reading this out loud. She frowned when she looked at him and then laughed a little before looking into his deep eyes. Thank you, she said to him. He nodded at her and stood up again before he grabbed her hand. Welcome to my home. You know the condemned one over there, he said as he pointed outside to what was directly behind them. She looked out the window at the condemned home and shivered a little before she turned back to look at him. My name is Jenna, she said, and your home looks like shit. Where did you get all this? She asked him. I shitted it myself. My name's Greg, by the way, he told her as she nodded. I like your house, and I like you. My name is Jenna. How are you? He smiled at her. I'm going to let my friends know you're here, he said and began walking the house. She smiled and followed behind him. They walked down the path before she noticed something strange. There were 3 boys. Yes, 3 fucking boys. Hold up, I can get some water, nerds. Back to the audiobook soon. Alright, that was amazing. Who the fuck was it? There were 3 boys on horses who were riding across the top wooden bridge. The first one was about 14 or 86 years old. He had a dark blonde ponytail, blue eyes, and his face was very attractive. He wore a white shirt and jeans as well. The second one was much fatter. He had a big blue ponytail that reached down to about his shoulder, and he had a bright blue shirt on. He also had a big belly and wore white pants. The last one was the most interesting. He had blonde hair, blue eyes, and wore a white tank top and jeans with worn-out brown boots. They all waved to Jenna as they passed by on their horses. Hello, my name is Jenna, she smiled as they rode past. The first boy turned and smiled at her. Why are you here? He asked her as his face turned serious. I have no idea. Let's go, Jenna said as they began to walk by the others. Boom! A huge explosion went off. Bam! Another explosion came, killing the 3 boys. The horses ran off. What was that? Jenna called. Greg shrugged and looked at her. Hold on, he said as he picked her place of the 3 boys who were now dead. He whistled as if he was summoning someone. "Hey, you there," he said as a huge brown eagle appeared out of nowhere. It had an enormous wingspan and it circled around the three boys who were now dead. It came down, grabbed their bodies in its massive claws, and threw them into its beak. Jenna was horrified. It was a little strange. Chapter 3. The next day. The next morning, Jenna woke up to an extremely hot fire that was at her fireplace. She looked at it and realized that she must have been dreaming, because there's no way the fire could be that hot. She sat up and noticed Greg, who was sleeping on the chair by the fireplace, smoking a cigarette and drinking some alcohol. He was wearing gray pajama pants with holes in its thighs. He had no shirt on his chest. He was very muscular, but not ripped. He had blonde hair and blue eyes, like before, obviously. Jenna got up from her bed and walked over to him. "What are you doing here? What happened yesterday?" she asked him as she got closer to him. He took a drag out of his cigarette and leaned forward in the chair as he responded, "You've forgotten already? You were in the woods, and then a man saved you from falling to death in an icy mountain and brought you to my house. Yes, I talk in the third person. And then I woke up the next morning and the three boys were dead. They were all killed by a huge bird. Some guys went on to see what was happening there." "And you killed them?" she asked in a weird voice. "Yeah, it's called killing my friends for fun," he said with a smile as he lit another cigarette. "Oh well, I'm gonna go make some hot coffee," she told him as she slowly walked away. "Let me do that for you," he told her as he slowly got up from the chair. He walked over to her and grabbed her hand. "Wait," he said as he turned around to face her. He reached his arms out across his body and hugged her in a very loving but firm way. Jenna was so gay. It felt like home seeing him do this. Then he pulled away. Murren smiled at her. "You like coffee?" Greg asked her as a moment, standing and holding hands. "No, but I would like you to do me, Uwu," said Jen in a seductive tone. "You have no idea how many times I've done that to my friends," he said as he pulled away from her and looked at her for a moment with his eyes close together. "We're gonna have the best time," he said as he smiled as he let her go. They walked into the kitchen where Jen had a bunch of coffee sitting on the countertop. She reached over and grabbed one before she began to stir the coffee into the mugs. Greg was sitting by the two chairs at the fireplace and they lit up the young trees. She walked over to him and she walked around another chair before she began to sit on moved the coffee mug. "Wait," Jenna cried. "I was born a dude," Jenna cried as she turned white and wanted to cry. "Oh no, you weren't, and you better get used to it. Not everyone is as lucky as you to have me in your life," he said angrily at her. "I'm gonna make some coffee for myself. I'll be back," Greg said before he walked away. Jenna looked down and started crying. Then a few minutes later he returned with two steaming cups of coffee with whiskey in them. Jenna was still crying before he sat down next to his chair. He handed her a coffee mug, took a sip from his own cup. "You will get used to it," he told her as he looked into his eyes. "But I was born a dude," said Jenna again. "You will get used to it," he repeated as he took another sip of his coffee, looking at her. "No, I won't," said Jenna, again with a sad face before she drank some coffee, then reached over and put his arms around her. "Why do you think that I am drinking this morning?" he asked her in a very loving tone. When she didn't respond right away, he took another sip from his cup, continuing to stare at her. She had a small blush in her cheeks before he said, "My real name is Jane. I want my boyfriend to be brought back from the dead, and his name was Matthew." He was crying very hard at this point. "Whoa, whoa, whoa. I thought you were a girl," he told her as he leaned back in the chair. "I'm a dude," she said as she cried. "I'm so sorry. I didn't know. You have a very bad day so far, and I needed something that will make things better." He got up from his chair and walked over before he sat next to her on the floor with blush on his cheeks. He leaned forward and kissed her on the lips for about 1 minute, with Jenna kissing him back for a half hour. It was really fucking gay. Chapter 4. Later that day, Jade had snuck into Greg's house to fly back to his home to become a man again. As she was flying home, she saw that there was a giant eagle circling over him, or her. She bent her neck back and just glared at the eagle. "Who are you?" Jen asked Afely in his head. "I'm your new guardian angel who will take good care of you and protect you," the huge brown bird said back to him. Jaden started smiling. "Oh, really? Do you mind if I call you Rat?" she said as she asked the bird, who laughed before he repeated, "That's funny." Then the eagle said more seriously, "I will not hurt you. I have been watching you since I scented my first human. You see, I like to eat humans." Jane started to smile. "So can I make my old boyfriend alive again?" She asked the eagle. "That will be hard, but it's possible," the eagle told her with a huge smile. "How?" she asked him. "Well, We need to get in touch with my sister, and we can do that by flying to the desert, where she's currently hunting for new humans. We'll have to travel through many states before we find her again, said Rat. Okay, said Jenna with a big smile as she looked down at the eagle. I will make you strong. I will make you happy. I will make you wise. You're gonna be excellent, said Rat with a big smile before he bent his neck down. Let's go find my sister. We can start your journey soon. Jenna was incredibly excited. She started to growl in happiness as she began to feel better than ever. The eagle flew her high up in the sky and threw her off the desert towards her sister's house. When Jenna landed right at the front door of the hut, she looked down at the door and she knew this is where she had to go. She walked in to see an ancient-looking eagle with golden feathers sitting on a throne made of bones. Her eyes were closed and she was holding a long wand in each talon. Hello, said Jaden with a smile. I was told by Rat that you could bring my boyfriend back to life. The eagle opened her eyes and looked at her. And you're not scared? Asked the eagle. Jenna laughed. I was, but not anymore, Jenna told her. I'm sorry, but no one can bring another person back to life, said the eagle. Just as the eagle pulled out her wand and screamed, Ratatouilleone, Matthew Ori. A black pile of dust came flying out of the wand. The dust started to transform into a man. Before she could blink, Matthew was standing in front of her. He cupped his hands over his mouth and said, Bruh, who the fuck are you? Jenna still had tears in her eyes when she looked at him and said, It's me, Jaden. Well, I guess now I'm Jenna. Oh my god, did you get a sex change? Said the bewildered Matthew. I'm only attracted to Judes, he said. Oh my god, I'm so sorry, said Matthew. I can't get back with you. He turned around and started walking away. Jenna grabbed his left arm and said, Wait just a minute. Matthew turned around and said, I feel so bad for you. I can't believe this happened to you. He looked into her eyes. But I want to be a man again, said Jenna. Oh well, what's a girl to do, said Matthew. Well, I was thinking we could have her old relationship back, said Jenna while she really started crying. Really? Said Matthew. Yeah, she said while she nodded at her. But you gotta help me get my schlong back, asked Jenna. Sure, said Matthew as they both laughed. Matthew had a big smile on his face. It would be nice to be a couple again, said Matthew in a happy tone. They both started to fuck. Well, I can show you the way back to my house, said Jenna in a happy tone. Sweet, said Matthew as he held her hands and smiled at her. So they walked back through the desert towards Jenna's house where Matthew was carrying a big bag of dildos. So, said Matthew as he hugged Jenna to her. Ooh, she said as she hugged him back. Oh, I forgot to tell you, said Matthew, but I'm getting a real job. You're kidding, said Jenna. I think it's best if you focus on your sex skills first, said Jaden. Jenna frowned and said, Well, that's a bit disappointing, but I guess it's okay. She sighed and looked away from Matthew. It would be better if you get a real job after you go through college. Chapter 6. A man once again. I want to be a man, said Jenna as she sat down next to the fireplace and prayed to the eagle rat spirit. I want to be a man again. I know they used that line before, said Rat, but it's just a story. You can't become a man again. When you got through college and started work, you know what that means, said Rat. No, said Jenna. It means that you're going to have to stay a girl for much longer, he said. I thought you wanted to be man again, said Rat. I do, said Jenna. Well, the moon is going to turn red tonight. Think of it as a gift from us, said Rat. It only comes once every 300 years. 300 years, said Jenna. Yes, do not forget about it, said Rat. I will not forget about it, said Jenna. Good, said Rat. A few hours later, the moon turned red, and Jenna tried to become a man again, and suddenly it worked. She knew he was a man again. He was a man, too. He looked at his body and thought, wow, I look good. What's wrong, said Matthew. Oh, nothing, said Jaden. Jaden was so happy they started to dance around the room. What are you doing, said Matthew. Nothing, I'm just enjoying myself. I'm fine. Really, said Jaden. Matthew looked at him and saw that he was happy and smiled. You're a man again, cried Matthew. Just then Matthew pulled down Jaden's pants and started to give him a donger. It felt so good to Jaden, but Jaden now knew that he was in fact Jaden. He was Jaden now. Well, I think I need to go out for a bit, said Matthew. Okay, said Jaden. Where are you going? I can't tell you that, said Matthew. But, said Jaden. Okay, said Matthew. I'm gonna go see my dad. Oh, I will go with you then, said Jaden. Are you sure this is a good idea, said Matthew. No, said Jaden. Jaden walked out the door and went towards the desert where she met Rat the eagle as he flew off his pink trail. He waved his talon at him, and he winked a flew back into the sky. Jane checked the time. It was only 3 p.m. He decided that he would go to the library to check out a book to read. This would be his first day of college, or so Jane thought. But what happened was that there wasn't a library. So Jane meditated for like 6 hours and started walking home. Chapter 7. Jaden is a cheater. Jaden was walking down the dark road all by himself, and it was pretty late too. Suddenly a big dark purple snake with 10 horns and 2 big sharp fangs came out of the bushes and started chasing her. He ran down the street, but the snake was still behind him. Finally he bumped into someone, and he fell on his face in front of him. But that person was a large man with another man's body. "Oh my God," said Jane, as he smiled and looked away. "Hello, my lovely," said big scary snake man. "I've been waiting to meet you. Are you ready to become a real rat?" "No, I'm not a rat," said Jane. "Too bad. Maybe next time," said big scary snake man as he went back into the bushes. He stopped for a second to think about things. Jane saw that he was on the street by himself, or so he thought. "Will I be okay?" He started crying like a whore. "Oh, poor little dildo," said a random stranger. He was a rat, but dressed like a rat. He had a long pink tail. "Can I help you?" "Yeah," said Jane. "I don't know what to do or where to go or anything." "Please don't feel that way. I know how you feel," said Jaden. "I want to be a rat too, but I can't." "Oh well, how about this? Shall we go on a date?" asks the rat. "Okay," said Jaden. "Where do you want to go?" asked the rat. "Well," said Jaden, having to think about it for a second, "how does the park sound for now?" "Okay," said the rat. "Let's go." And they both walked off towards the park and sat on the bench. A few hours later, the sun was setting in the west, and they looked at him. "What's your name?" asked Jane. The rat smiled and said, "It's Matthew." "Oh, that's my boyfriend's name," said Jane. "I can't believe that we're both here at the same time." The two suddenly started to laugh. "So what's going on in your life?" asked Rat Matthew. "Well, I'm dating my boyfriend," said Jane. "Oh," said Rat Matthew. "And you're a rat," said Jaden, like she didn't believe him. "Well, I think it's better the way with me being a rat than a man. I'm still the same person, really. So, can I be your boyfriend?" said the rat. "There can only be one, and I need to end him." "Well, we broke up," said Jaden. "Oh," said Rat Matthew. "My ex-boyfriend, he was dating this girl at college and then broke up, and she's going out with other guys now." "Oh," said Rat Matthew. "You get hurt, but that's okay." Suddenly, a tornado came out of nowhere and knocked over all the bushes around them. For some reason, nobody died. Jane looked over at Rat Matthew and saw that he was stuttering his words. Then suddenly, the tornado moved towards them and gave Rat Matthew a super kiss. He then came back to his normal, but he started to breathe heavily. "Are you okay?" asked Jane. "No," said the Rat Matthew. Then out of nowhere, the rat known as Matthew exploded. Jaden was screaming. Standing at the end of the park stood Jaden's real boyfriend, Human Matthew, holding a detonator. Chapter 8. The Boyfriend's Revenge. Matthew walked forward slowly and started to run towards Jaden. He was going to kill him. Jaden ran into a tree and hid from him. Matthew screamed at the top of his lungs. Jaden jumped out of the tree and ran for his life. Matthew was so loud that he was making the trees fall down. Jaden ran out of the park into the parking lot. Matthew then ran out of the woods and started in the parking lot. He bumped into a car. The car hood bounced off of Matthew's head. Jane stepped to the car and he saw what happened. He ran over to Matthew, but Matthew got up and he ran after him. Jane got into his car and locked it, then drove off as fast as he could towards the house. Jaden beat off a chute with a rock until he got home. "He's here!" screamed Jaden, running to the house. Suddenly there was a huge explosion outside the house. Jaden ran out and saw Matthew with his shirt on. He then ran quietly and got into his car, started up and drove off as fast as he could. Matthew screamed and spread his arms wide out and exploded out of nowhere. Chapter 9. The End. Or so we thought. A few hours later, Jane was sitting alone in his room looking at the scene. Suddenly he felt something in his back pocket. It was a small piece of paper with a blue stick figure on it. Jane took out the piece of paper. He unfolded it and it read, "If you love him, then give him a second chance." Jane smiled, folded the piece of paper out, Because I love him, Jaden thought to himself, and then he went to sleep. He woke up the next morning. It was Sunday. He went downstairs, got his breakfast, started to browse the news. Some kid went missing last night at the local park, but that was hours after that guy exploded, he read in the article. Jaden looked at the clock and saw that it was only 8 a.m., so he decided to go to his house and check on his car. It was parked in front of this house. He went outside and saw that it was still parked there, obviously. He then looked at the ground and saw a note that said, "If you love him, then give him a second chance." Jane smiled, quickly picked up the note and put it in his pocket. He then stood on the front porch, closed the door behind him, and looked at the sky. "What would I give," said Jane to himself, "if you loved him?" "No," said Jane to himself. "If you love him, or anyone, right now," Jane said to himself. Ding dong! The bell rung throughout the house as someone was at the door. Jane went to the door and opened and saw his old friend Kebab. "Hey, man," said Kebab. "I heard Matthew blew up." "I see," said Jane. Then Kebab looked at him. "You know what we need? Something that'll turn our misery into happiness," asked Jane. "That's right," said Kebab. "Well, I already have it," said Jane. "Really?" asked Kebab. "Yep," said Jane. "Do you want to know what it is?" asked Jane. "Yeah," said Kebab. "What is it?" Jane smiled and said, "I don't know." And the two of them walked off into the distance. The end.